Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, carried on from the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. From last week, we got to the point where he was in the house of the Aziz of Egypt, and his wife tried to seduce him. And we talked about how difficult that test was for Yusuf alayhi salam. And now it's a test that no man can really fight except if Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives him victory and protects him. And we said that Allah said to, when it came to Yusuf alayhi salam, وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَبُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, that she wanted Yusuf, and Yusuf would also have been inclined to her. At the end of the day, that's how Allah Azza wa Jal, He created men, right? He would have been inclined to her. Like, and he didn't do any sin. Why? Allah said, كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفْ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ, because Allah diverted the evil from him. Why? إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. In another qira'ah, إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلِصِينَ, because he was from the sincere servants of Allah. We took as a benefit from this. Anyone who is sincere in their worship when it comes to Allah. مَنْ أَخْلَصَ لِلَّهِ, anyone who is sincere in his ibadah for Allah, his ibadah is purified and cleaned only for Allah, خَلَّصَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الشُّرُورِ, Allah will purify this person from evil. Allah will take evil away from this person. And we said that Shaitan said himself to Allah Azza wa Jal, that I'm going to come to them from the right, and I'm going to come to them from the left, and I'm going to come to them from the front, on top and below. Not from the top, not from below, from the right, from the left, from the front and the back. He said, but then what did he say? He said, except for your sincere slaves, except for the ones who come with ikhlas, the ones who worship you alone, Ya Rabb. They don't worship anyone else besides you. Their tawheed is pure, it's untainted, it's for you, Ya Rabb. These people I won't be able to harm. So what did Yusuf do? Yusuf alayhi salam, they threatened him with prison. The women, now it's not just one, all of the women are coming together and trying to make him do haram. They've trapped him. So what did he do? And they said, if you don't do this, we're going to send you to jail. What did he do? He said, رَبِّي السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. He said, my Lord, the prison is more beloved to me. Being sent to jail, spending time in prison is more beloved to me than what these women are calling me to. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And Allah, if you do not divert me from them, don't save me from them, I'm going to fall into what they're telling me. I might fall into it. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, and I'll become of the people who are jahil. I'll become of the ignorant ones. And what did Allah Azza wa Jalla say to him straight away? What did Allah say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said to him, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ. Allah said He responded to the dua of Yusuf. So it's showing you Yusuf was making dua for prison. Who makes dua to be sent to jail? Yusuf made dua to be sent to prison. And Allah said, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ. He responded to his dua and He diverted from them from him their plotting and their planning that they were doing. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. He is the one who hears and He is all-knowing. Allah listens to the dua when you make it. And now we go to, because if you see the story, it keeps changing from scenes to locations. Now the story changes from being inside the house of the Aziz in Egypt to now being inside a prison. And that's where our lesson is going to be today. We're going to take benefits from what took place inside of the prison. And I'm going to go through, like I said, as we do every week, an overview of this part of the story. But we're not here to tell stories. We're here to take lessons and benefits. So inshallah ta'ala, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly have an understanding of the series of events that took place in the prison, and then we're going to start taking benefits from them. So Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ سِجْنَ فَتَيَانِ. Two youngsters came into the prison with Yusuf. And they had a question. قَالَ أَحَدُهُمَا إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَعْصِرُ خَمْرًا. He said, I had a dream. One of them said, I had a dream. I was squeezing wine. A person gets grapes and they squeeze the grapes, and then from the wine comes. وَقَالَ الْآخَرُ إِنِّي أَرَانِي. The second one said, I had another dream. أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا. On my head, he said, in the dream I was carrying bread. تأكل الطير منها. And birds were eating from the bread on top of my head. نبئنا بتأويله. Tell us the interpretation of this dream. Why did they come to him and ask? This dream, there's everyone else in the prison, but why ask him? They said, إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. They said, Yusuf, we see you to be of the people who are good. We see you to be a good man. You seem like a very good person, a good human being. That's why we decided to come to you, to ask you to interpret this dream. What happens after that? Yusuf says, I'm going to tell you the dream. I'm going to tell it to you before your food comes to you. He said, I'm going to tell you the dream before even food comes to you. That's how certain I am that I'm going to tell you. But what's he doing? He doesn't want to tell him the dream straight away. He realizes these people, they need something that's even more important than the dream to be interpreted. What they need is tawheed. They are people who are doing shirk. They are worshipping gods besides Allah Azza wa Jal. So he says, don't worry. I'm going to tell you the dream before even your food comes to you. Your next meal, before it comes to you, I will tell it to you, and I know it. So what's he doing? He's giving them ease that, yeah, I'm going to tell you the dream, but I'm going to tell you something first. He starts off by saying, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. By the way, he said, the ability to tell you the dream is not from me. It's something that Allah taught me. Straight away, he's connecting the conversation to Allah. Someone comes to you, asks you for help. You don't say to them, don't worry, I'm going to sort it out. You say, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. No problem, I'll help you. I'll get it done. Allah gave me the ability to do this. So Allah made it easy for me, so I'm going to do it for you. Show them this is a person who's connected to Allah. And then he starts to give them da'wah, and he teaches them about tawheed. And we're going to go into the conversation, and through this conversation we're going to learn some powerful da'wah techniques. We're going to learn how to structure a conversation of da'wah, how to give da'wah to people, how to call them tawheed, how to refute shirk and batil. We'll come to it. But he gives da'wah to them. And then he interprets the dream for them. And what is the interpretation of the dream? He said, for the one who was squeezing the grapes, he said, you're going to pour wine for your Lord, as in for your master, for your king, basically. You're going to pour wine for him. As for the second guy, what was his dream? Who can remember what was his dream? He said, I was carrying bread on top of my head, يَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْهِ, and that the birds were eating from the bread that's on top of his head. Right? So he said, as for the other one, meaning that guy, he said, you are going to be killed. And you are going to be crucified. You're going to be killed and you're going to be crucified. So, question. How did Yusuf work that out from the dream? Who could have imagined that? If you've heard the story before, then you know. But if someone came to you had a dream and said, I was carrying bread on top of my head. I was carrying bread on top of my head. And birds were eating the bread. Who would understand from that you'll be killed and you'll be crucified? Shaykh Abdurrahman ibn Nasir Sa'di, rahimahullah, he explained this so nicely, wallahi, because Shaykh Abdurrahman ibn Nasir Sa'di, from the way he was explaining it, you get a feeling that the Shaykh himself had very good knowledge of dream interpretation. And you're going to be shocked when I show you how the Shaykh explained how Yusuf worked it out. He said, in that time, and in our time, when a person dies, what happens to them? What do you do after he dies? Say that again, sorry? You bury them, right? You bury them. He said, in fact, let's move backwards. Let's move backwards. He said, a person, do birds ever come to human beings when they're alive? Do birds ever fly to you and peck at your head and eat your head? Did they ever do that? No. Birds only come to people who are dead. Birds only come to people who are dead. Not just people. They don't just eat from those who are dead, but they eat from those who are dead and alone. You could be dead, but in a crowd of people, the bird won't eat from you. The birds will only come and eat from your body. The only time a bird will eat from your body is if you're dead. That's it. And we all know this. Vultures come, pigeons will come and eat carcasses. They'll eat dead corpses of animals and humans. It's ma'roof. So he said, the fact that he's seeing birds eating from the top of his head, he said, this means he's dead. Birds will never come and eat from a person that's alive. They'd only eat the flesh of a person who died. Right? You don't have to worry about pigeons coming and eating your flesh as you walk down the street, do you? It's only when you're dead that they'll come and do that. But he said, hold up. But where did he get the fact that he's going to be crucified? He said, the fact that he's out in the open for the birds to eat his head means he hasn't been buried. And one of the forms of punishment in that time was crucifixion. And that was a punishment that's known, is that when you want to kill someone but you don't want to bury him straight away, you hang him for the people to see. You hang him for the people to see. So he was killed first. He's not alive, because if you're alive and you're crucified, the birds won't come to you alive. He was killed first, and then he was hung in the city for the people to look at him. That is from the deep knowledge of dream interpretation that Allah Azza wa Jalla gave to Yusuf alayhi salam. And from this we learn that the dreams are of two types. You see, the first man, he saw himself pouring alcohol into the cup of his master. Huh? And what was his dream interpretation? So in the dream he saw himself squeezing alcohol, and in the dream, so the reality, the interpretation was that he would actually pour it for his master. So that dream was as he saw it. Am I lying? That dream was as he saw it. So sometimes you have dreams that will show you what will take place in the future from Allah, okay, from Allah Azza wa Jalla, or there'll be signs of good or bad or whatever have you from Allah, and what will happen in real life is the way you saw it in your dream. I'll give you an example. Me personally, many times I had dreams of people being possessed, and I wake up the next day, I see that person collapse on the floor, possessed, and shaking and everything. So it happens. You saw something one way in your dream, and then the next day you see it like that in front of you. The second type of dream is a dream that's metaphorical. And that was the man who was carrying the bread on his head. It wasn't really what took place. There weren't really bread being carried on his head, but the dream was signaling that which was going to take place. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So Yusuf, he interpreted the dream for the two men. The one that Yusuf realized was going to survive, and he was going to go to the master and pour alcohol for him, Yusuf said to him, he said, mention me to your master. Who was the guy? It was the king of Egypt. He said, mention him to me. Mention me to him, sorry. As in, tell him about me. So that maybe he can what? He can free him. Maybe he can help him get out of the prison. It's a fair request, right? The man, when he escaped and when he left prison and he got out, Allah says shaitan made him forget. And he forgot to mention Yusuf alayhi salam to the king. And Yusuf stayed inside the prison for more years. He just stayed in prison. Until... We'll come to that until, inshallah. Now let's go back to what we've taken and take benefits from it, and let's go into the conversation that Yusuf alayhi salam had with the people. Now let's actually make it into a lesson. The first thing that I want to mention here, wallahi, and I mentioned it last time, and I can't stop mentioning it, yeah, is that how shocked and I personally am at Yusuf, that he was so shy of Allah, and he was so obedient to Allah, and he didn't want to disobey Allah to the extent where he said, Allah, send me into prison. رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Brothers, wallahi, how many of us, sadly in this day and age, have fallen into the sin of zina? The official statistics about the Muslim youth in the UK, they came out a few months ago, and I read them. It says 67% of Muslim youth are sexually active, which means that they're doing zina. 67%. And this is a sin that's become so easy for us. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, in that time, the Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the people that were around at his time who were the Salaf, he said to them, what? He said, I see you doing sins that are so big, but you are swatting them away like they are flies that just landed on your nose. But he said, we used to do small sins at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and we used to feel like a mountain is crushing us on our shoulder. And that was his time. Imagine if you saw us today. A person will do zina, a person will steal, a person will lie, a person will backbite, a person will disrespect their parents. They will do sins and they don't care. Look at the prophets, and this is why their hearts were so pure and why they reached the level that they reached. Is that Yusuf alayhi salam, he said, Allah, send me to jail, send me to prison. And the prisons those days were not like the prisons in our days, brothers. No, not like prisons in our days. Prisons in our days, I speak to brothers on Instagram in prison. And like brothers message me on Instagram, bro, I'm in prison. When I get out, I can't wait to go remember the man with you. Wallah, I'm chatting to a guy in prison on Instagram. How is this happening? Those days it doesn't happen like that. Prisons were very dark and grungy and dingy and oppression, and there were no rights, and it was a very painful experience. Very, very painful experience. But he said, Allah, send me there. Send me there instead of what? Leaving me to what these people might do. And look what he said, إِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنْ. He said, Allah, if you don't, I might fall into what they're doing. This is a lesson, brothers. For those of you who want to change your life, who you might have come from Jahiliyyah. You might have been out of Jahiliyyah for a week, or you might have been out of it for a year. But you're still in the same environment and the same surrounding that your Jahiliyyah was spent in. You still live in the same area, or you still work in the same place. You still hang around in the same area where you used to once do a lot of sin. Brothers, know that the environment will suck you in. Yusuf alayhi salam realized, my environment, these women, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep coming at me. And they're going to keep coming at me until they make me do haram. So Allah, the only option I have is either being a free man in Egypt where any of these women will make me do haram, or being a man in captivity in prison. And he chose that. And he preferred that. Does that make sense? Also, a benefit here. I remember 2 years ago, I was reading the tafsir of this ayah. And I wanted to read it because a brother that was close to me, he got sentenced to prison. And he's a brother who left Jahiliyyah. And he changed his life. And he left the haram behind. And he fixed up. And he really, mashallah, he patterned up, mashallah. But then a case from a few years ago caught up with him. And he got found guilty. And he got arrested. And I remember thinking to myself, and a lot of the brothers themselves, because the brother I remember was making lots of dua in Ramadan, he was begging Allah, he was making so much dua to be saved, right? So, because I remember he actually got arrested in Ramadan. So, when he actually got sentenced, we were all kind of shocked, how come? Not to question Allah's qadr, but what was the wisdom there, Allah? The man changed his life. What might be your hikmah? There's always a hikmah. Not question the hikmah, but I just wondered, what could it be? The guy just changed his life and now he's in jail. And I remember I thought, let me read the story of Yusuf and let me read the tafsir. So I opened up Tafsir Ibn Kathir, and wallahi, the answer was right there. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, and he said something powerful. And this is a lesson for brothers who might go to jail and they're innocent, or they might go to jail and maybe they're not innocent, they're guilty for a crime, but they repented. They already changed. Okay. And prison, by the way, doesn't have to be prison. It could be you became sick. That could be your prison. It could be that you became broke. That's your prison. It could be that any calamity that came over you, and the sin that resulted in that calamity, either you're free from it, you're innocent, you never did it in the first place, or you did it, or maybe you made tawbah and say, Allah, I'm sorry, I repent. But why did it come your way? The answer is in Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentioned, he said, this was the only way for Allah to completely protect Yusuf, because those women would not have left him alone until they made him do the haram. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He actually protected Yusuf by putting him in prison. That made me realize, subhanallah, perhaps the brother going into jail was a protection for him. What if being out in the streets, someone came and killed him? What if being out in the street, maybe somehow he fell back into his jahiliyyah? So going to prison, sometimes there's khair in it. Same way, a person gets sick, a person breaks his leg. He's thinking, what? Wallahi, you could have been walking and run over by a bus. There's khair in it. Does that make sense? Sometimes Allah is imprisoning you somewhere to protect you from that which is outside. Does that make sense? So now, we go to Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay? I want to take a benefit here. Why did these two young men who came to ask for the dream interpretation, why did they come to Yusuf? Why did they ask him for help when they could have gone to anyone else inside of the prison? Why? They said it themselves. They said, "Inna naraka min al-muhsinin." Brothers, pay attention here. And sisters as well. Inside of a prison, what kind of people are there? What kind of people do you find in prison? Do you find people who are nice? Bad people. And what kind of bad? Is it just like, white lie bad? It's rapists in prison. It's killers in prison. Thieves. Crazy people in prison, right? So everyone in prison is out for themselves, watching over their shoulder, not trusting anyone around. Everyone is a possible enemy. So, every angle you're just careful because you don't trust the people and you know that they are a certain way. But imagine inside of this environment of badness, there's one person that's just righteous. He doesn't lie. People in prison, they'll lie. They'll look shifty, talk about certain things, this, that, talk about their jahiliyyah. You see one guy just sitting in the corner, he's worshipping Allah, got a smile in his face. You need help, he gives it to you. Everyone else is screw-facing you when they're talking to you. He talks to you and you speak to him, he looks at you. He's not worried about you. You don't feel worried from him. He's just smiling in your face, helping you. You need something. He's just good. Automatically what will happen? Everyone will be attracted to this person and they'll begin to trust him. And that's why if they need help, they'll come to him as opposed to going to anyone else. And that's why they came to Yusuf alayhi salam, because they saw that amazement in him. They saw that righteousness in him. And that is something that Yusuf alayhi salam later on used to give da'wah to them. And we'll come to that in a second. But that is something that Yusuf alayhi salam, he later on used to give da'wah to them. Now, pay attention. There was two times in the story of Yusuf where Allah described him in this way, where Allah mentioned this statement. When he was in the prison, these two guys came to him and said, "Inna naraka min al-muhsinin." They said, "Yusuf, we see you to be from the doers of good." And later on, when he's in the palace and he's a ruler, later on he becomes a ruler. He has a palace. And he's in the palace as a ruler. They come to him, asking for help, and they say, "Inna naraka min al-muhsinin." A different group of people. What does this show you here? Two times, the same thing was said to Yusuf. That we see you to be a good, righteous man. But those times his situation was different. Once he was in prison with nothing, humble. And in that situation, you expect people to, generally speaking, be miskin, right? The second time was when? Was in palace. As a leader. As a big man. But you see, the money didn't get to his head. And his authority didn't get to his head. And his status didn't get to his head. He still remained a man who was good. He was good in terms of his relationship with Allah, and he was good in terms of how he dealt with and treated the people. The place that he was in didn't change him as a man. He remained consistent and the same when he was in prison and he was outside. Now, brothers, pay attention here. What's the benefit when it comes to da'wah and people seeing you as a good person? Because when a person sees righteousness from you and they see goodness from you, it will be easier for them to accept the message from you. Does that make sense? And also they will come to you asking you for help when they're in need of problem. And when a person is in need, that's the best time to give da'wah to them. Like imagine a mum, she wants to tell her son, for example, she wants to teach her son the importance of not wasting money. So when he's on the PlayStation and he's playing Call of Duty, is that a good time for the mum to speak to the son? Because he's not paying attention to her. He doesn't need anything from the mum. But the best time for her to talk is when he comes to her, because she knows he's going to come to her at one point for money. He said, "Mum, can you give me £5? I want to go to the shop." "No problem, son. I'm going to give you the money." What did Yusuf say? He said, "No problem. I'm going to tell you a dream. I'm going to tell it to you before your food comes." So I said, "No problem. I'm going to give you the money. But I want to talk to you about something first. Take a seat." Because he wants the money. What's he going to do? He's going to sit there. And is he going to sit there and listen, or is he going to sit there like, you know, when the mum's talking to him and he's on the PlayStation, he's not paying attention. He's like, yeah, mum, yeah, one sec, yeah. You listening to me? Yeah, I'm listening. But he's not really listening. He's paying attention when he needs something. So these people, they want a dream interpret. So Yusuf said, no problem, I'm going to give it to you. But first I want to talk to you about something else. And the fact that they came to him because they saw goodness. So brothers, wallahi, when you're at work and when you're at school, you should, and you're studying, or whether it be uni or college or whatever, you should stand out like a star. Because how are the kuffar? They all backbite each other. They will talk about each other. They're all perverted. Not all of them, but a lot of them are perverted. You know, they have funny behaviors. Everyone's talking behind the other person's back. But you're at work, and what are you? You're trustworthy. You are. They see you, nice. He doesn't get involved in that stuff. And then when they come to you but they will come to you when they see goodness from you. When they need help, everyone needs help. They'll come to you. Yo, listen, I kind of didn't get this project done. Can you help me on it? Yeah, say yes. Say yes. For Allah's sake. Why? Because that's an opportunity now to give da'wah to them. Say yes, no problem. I'll help you with it, bro. Take a seat. What do you need? Yeah, you know, I need this, that, and the other. Stay a couple of hours extra. Say, no problem, but first I want to talk to you about something. What's this Jesus you keep worshipping, man? Come on, man. What's up? Have a conversation. And he listens to you. He takes it in on board. You know what I'm saying? And he'll come to you again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And that's how it is. So make sure people, they see that softness, that righteousness from you. If you see a tough man, if you're in school and you're walking around what? You're walking around tough, you know, brother's got a beard, long beard, but it just looks like he's, you know, they look at him like any moment he's going to blow himself up. Any minute he's going to blow himself up. That's the way they're scared, because he always looks so antisocial. I mean, I'm not saying socialize with them, I'm not saying make jokes with the kuffar and start hanging around with them, but look like a person who's soft, deal with people in a nice, soft way. What did Allah Azza wa Jalla say to the Prophet? Allah said, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. Allah said, it's from the mercy of Allah that Muhammad, you were soft with them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Muhammad, if you were tough with them, meaning the companions, they would have run away from you. Abu Bakr would have run, Uthman, Umar, Sa'ad, they would have all run away from you. But because you are merciful and you're soft, they kept running to you. And then the Prophet used that as an opportunity to give da'wah to them. Does that make sense? So now, let's go on to the actual conversation. Okay? Brothers, wallahi, sisters, wallahi, the thing that was on Yusuf's mind was Tawheed. Was La ilaha illallah, nothing else. Like he's in prison, he's suffering himself, but he's so concerned for the people, they're doing shirk. How can you be worshipping someone else besides Allah Azza wa Jal? It caused him pain. People, ask yourself, when you have conversations with kuffar, or when you have conversations with Muslims who are Muslim but they're innovators, and they're doing bid'ah, or they're doing sins, does it hurt you, the pain? Do you feel the pain for the evil that they're doing? If so, you talk to them about it, you have a conversation with them. You can't bear to stand to take a kafir who's worshipping someone else besides Allah. I remember when I was in uni and I started practicing and I changed my life, there was a brother who gave da'wah to me. I was with him one day and I was like, bro, I'm leaving uni early, I'm going to go see one of my friends. He goes, oh, what? Is he a Muslim? I said, no, he's not, he's a Christian. He said, oh, have you ever given him da'wah? I said, no. He said, oh, you're a rubbish friend then, aren't you? I said, what do you mean a rubbish friend? He said, you know he's going to burn in hellfire for eternity. And you never once spoke to him about Allah, worshipping Him alone, and not doing shirk. I was like, yo, that's deep. It's true. It's true. For a person to sit in front of me, and for me to not talk to him about Tawheed, and he's doing shirk, it's worse than, imagine, I see a fire and a blind man's walking right into it. Would I not scream, yo, stop, what are you doing? Would I not do that? Because he's going to walk into the fire. And that's exactly what these people are doing. They're blinded by what their falsehood, and they're walking face first into the fire. So if you care for them, then one of the first things you'll do is you'll stop them from what it is that they're doing. Does that make sense? So Yusuf, he gave da'wah to them in two ways. His da'wah was stage 1, stage 2. Okay? The first stage he gave da'wah to them was he gave da'wah by talking about himself. Why is he talking about himself? Because sometimes when you talk about yourself, you can make the person relate to you. You can make the person relate to you. As in, I understand where you're coming from. Does that make sense? Also, why would they want to hear about him? They already said, إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We see you to be a man who's good. So they know he's good. Now, so if you know a man's good, you think, how did he get like that? Like, what's your story, bro? How are you different to everyone else? So they would be willing to listen to him. So at that point, what did he say? He spoke to them, and he said, إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. He said, I've left off a people. I have left off a religion, a people who they didn't believe in Allah. Nor did they believe in the Akhirah. وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, and they were disbelievers. And he said, rather I follow who? If you're asking me who I am and where I'm from and why I'm the way I am, he said, وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. He said, I follow the religion of my fathers. Who are they? Ibrahim. Who's Ibrahim? Who's Ibrahim? He's a prophet of Allah. He's the grandfather of Yusuf. The great grandfather. He said, Ishaq. Who's who? The son of Ibrahim. Yaqub, who is his father. He's saying, these are the people I follow. I mean, he's trying to let them know, I came from a house of prophets. I'm from a house of prophethood. That's where I came from. And that's why I may be the way that you see me. And he said, it's not for us that we worship anyone else besides Allah. So after he told them a bit about himself, and he connected their hearts, and kind of related to them, he moved on to actually giving them da'wah. Brothers, pay attention, there's a very fine line between talking about yourself when you're giving da'wah for the sake of Allah, and talking about yourself when you're giving da'wah to make people just like you more. Sometimes people, they talk about themselves because they are calling to themselves, not Allah. See, Yusuf, he's talking about himself, but he's doing it to connect the people back to Allah. He's trying to let them know, I'm a person who connected myself to Allah. I come from a house of prophets who were taught to not do shirk, to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. Does that make sense? That's where I'm from. I'm not part of the shirk that these people here in Egypt are doing. And he's going to talk to them more about their shirk in a second. But he said, I've got nothing to do with that. So he's doing it to relate to them. But some people will talk to you and tell you, yeah bro, look at me man. You know what I'm saying? I got this, I've memorized this, I've read this book, I studied this. And why are you telling us for? Some people, they love to sit here and tell you, bro, I got PhD from Medina, I got masters from Medina, I got this degree from here, I got ijazah from here, ijazah from here, ijazah from here. I got ijazat. And this is very, 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 very bad behavior. Very bad behavior. I'll give an example. My teacher, Ustad Rahman, many of you will know, hopefully you'll never see this recording because he'll be very upset at me saying this, but he's a man who's got ijazat. He's got ijazat from so many different scholars. He's got a whole pile, or at least when he used to live in the UK, he had a whole pile in his library. And not just ijazat, tazkiyat. You talk about tazkiyat, wallahi, and I was shocked. I looked at him and said, why didn't you put this out there? One of the reasons that people even question you, sometimes they say, what tazkiyah do you have? And you, what tazkiyah from? This sheikh, this sheikh, this sheikh, this sheikh, this. Ustad, put it out there. Put it out there. He's like, no, there's no need. There's no need. He's not trying to put himself out there like that. Ustad Rahman actually got a PhD from University in Riyadh. He's got a PhD in the science of hadith. And right now, he's doing his second PhD in Usul al-Fiqh in the University of Sharjah. People out there graduate from these UDs, they don't even have a PhD, they don't even have a master's, but they're talking about it. But he had this, and no one knows. His own family members don't know. He doesn't want people to know because he doesn't want people to look at him and think, what? That look, he doesn't want people to think, that he's someone great. It's just, I'm a humble slave of Allah, trying to connect people's hearts to Allah. That's what I'm trying to do out here. That's my business. Does that make sense? So there's a very fine line between letting people know who you are. Like for example, if people are sitting here and they're talking about a mas'ala and everyone's confused and they're all arguing with each other, there's nothing wrong with you saying, Akhi, I've studied this mas'ala in this book, I've read it here, I spoke to a sheikh about it, so let me explain it to you. There's nothing wrong with that because you're showing people you're trustworthy and reliable in them taking the source. But don't go overboard with it. Does that make sense? So that's the first thing that Yusuf done. He related to the people. He let them know who he is so that they will be more inclined to take the message from him. And this is the main part. After that, what did he do? He called them to Tawheed. He started to actually give da'wah by giving them evidences and giving them proofs for why their kufr and their shirk is wrong. And he done it in two ways. The first way he did was that he told them about all of the good that will come, or the goodness that's connected to worshipping Allah alone. He said, Allah, worship Allah is good for you. And then his second thing he did was to show them how bad shirk is. How bad not worshipping Allah alone is. And this is a powerful technique in da'wah, is when you want to teach someone something, tell them, Akhi, if you pray, you're going to get this, 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 you're going to get this. You know, you're going to make your way through the sirat on the day of judgment. You know, you're going to have a light on the day of judgment. You know, it's the first thing that's going to be asked about in the day of judgment. You're going to go straight through. And you're going to go through a list like that. And then what? You tell him after that, what's all the stuff that's going to happen if you don't pray? Actually, if you don't pray, you're going to go into the hellfire. If you don't pray, it's the first question you're going to be asked in the day of judgment. You're not going to make it through. If you don't pray, you're going to fall off the bridge. It's going to hook you with a sharp hook and it's going to throw you into the hellfire. If you don't pray. And so this is the way you do it. You tell people the good and the reasons why they should do what you're telling them to do. And then you tell them the bad that's connected to them not doing it. Does that make sense? And then, let's go into the conversation. Look what he said. He said, Ya صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. He said, oh people who are in the prison. He said, oh people who are in the prison. He said, all of these many gods that you worship, أأرباب متفرقة. You worship, you know, you are worshipping idols, and there's many idols, graves, and there's many graves, prophets, and there's many prophets, righteous men, there's many righteous men. Some you worship the sun, some worship the moon, some worship the sun, some worship the stars, there's many stars. All these things that you worship, are they good? Like, is that healthy for you? أَمِ اللَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَارِ. Or is it better that you worship Allah, Al-Wahid, who is one, Al-Qahar, who is above all of His creation. He's overpowered them. We'll talk about these three names in a second. We'll talk about them in a second. By saying, what's better? One God that you worship? Or one deity that you worship? Or all of these different gods? Why? Because when a person has got so many different gods to worship, he doesn't know who do I show more love to? Who do I show more appreciation to? Like when you speak to a Christian, yeah? For them, what is it? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are supposed to be what? They're all supposed to be equal, right? One's not more than the other. And you find some of them, they talk about the Father more, and they pray to the Father more. Some pray to the Son more. Some call upon the Holy Spirit. One guy, you chat to him all day, he's shaking like, you know, he's got a jinn inside him, he's telling the Holy Spirit's in me, bro. Like I have the Holy Spirit. Me and the Holy Spirit, one. Touch the Holy Spirit. I'm thinking, I don't know what kind of things come and touch you at night. Definitely ain't the Holy Spirit touching you, brother. I don't know what's touching you, bro. Keep away from me. But it's no Holy Spirit. The other guy, he's talking about what? The Son. In your name, Lord Jesus Christ. And the other guy, what's he doing? He don't mention the Son, he don't mention the Spirit, he's just, Father, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Like, they just, what? They're confused. Which one do I go to? Because if they all are equal, then shouldn't you not treat them all equal? But can you treat all these gods equal? It's impossible. A person's heart is, what? Is scattered. The Shia, who worship many gods besides Allah, they worship Allah, they worship Ali, they worship the sons of Ali, they worship the sons of Ali, they worship Fatima radiallahu anha. Which one are you giving more to? Some give more to Hussein, some give more to Hassan, some give more to Ali, some try to give it to the Prophet ﷺ. Like, they're confused. So in your ibadah you're confused. You said, who are you worshipping? Will I have a conversation with a Christian? He's confused. Which God are you worshipping, bro? You're all they call him upon Jesus, but wasn't the Father the one who created Jesus? Which one? But he's not created, he's connected. If he's connected, then why was he created? Does it make sense? And then what did he say? He says, worship one. Worship one. And he mentioned three names of Allah. He said, Allah, Al-Wahid, and Al-Qahar. What are these three names? What do they mean? I'll tell you what they mean, and I'll tell you why these names are so powerful when it comes to giving da'wah. Pay attention. Allah means the one that should be worshipped alone. There's no one else that you should worship besides Allah. Don't worship anyone but Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Wahid means He's alone in His essence, meaning He is the only deity. He's the only one that not only is the one in His essence, but He's the only one who does the things He does. And He creates, no one else creates with Him. He provides, no one else provides with Him. He controls, no one else controls with Him. He owns the kingdom, no one shares the kingdom with Him. He owns everything, no one shares ownership, anything with Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that these things that you're calling upon, besides Allah, they do not even own mithqala dharra. They don't even own an atom in the heavens and the earth. وَمَا لَهُمْ فِيهِمَا مِنْ شِرْكٍ. They don't even have a share in an atom in the heavens and earth. No one, Allah is the one. He controls in his actions of providing, of controlling, of creating. He's alone in it. No one says that. He's al-Wahid, one. And then the third name was Al-Qahar. What does Qahar mean? Qahar means the one who has overpowered everyone. Everyone's below him. He's overcome them. He's supreme. He's mighty. He's on top of everyone. In might, in power, everyone's beneath him. No one is above Allah. No one says anything to Allah. No one talks back to Allah. No one questions Allah. He is in charge. Al-Qahar. Allah mentioned this. You know what's powerful here? Allah mentioned this name in the Quran 6 times. Every time Allah mentioned the name Al-Qahar, Allah connected it to His name Al-Wahid and Allah. This sequence of these 3 names were always connected every time in the Quran it was mentioned. And when you find Allah, Al-Wahid, Al-Qahar, when they're mentioned, it's most of the time used in a context where Allah is refuting shirk. Allah is refuting shirk and refusing it, and telling everything that you worship besides me is false. Why? Because of these 3 names of Allah. Why? What did these names inside them have? And this is the point that I really want you to take home here, brothers. What did these 3 names of Allah have inside of them that make it a proof that if Allah actually has these 3 names, then you shouldn't worship anyone else besides Him. You have to worship Him alone. Let's start with Al-Qahar. Why is Al-Qahar here powerful? Why is it strong? Because everything besides Allah that is worshipped has something that is above it. Anything and everyone that a person worships, it has something that is above it. Give you an example. The ones who worship idols. Who is the one that's above the idol? Who is in control of the idol? The one who made it. The one who makes the idol. Or the one who comes over and smashes the idol on the floor and breaks it. What? He's overpowered the idol. Qahara alayhi. He's what subjugated it beneath him. Does that make sense? What about Jesus? Wallahi, speak to the Christians. And I say to you, how can you worship Jesus when He is not Al-Qahar? Ask them, when you say the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit, which one of these 3 is Al-Qahar? You tell me. All 3 of them can't be Qahar. You know why? Because Jesus died. Did Jesus die? How can Qahar die? The one who's Qahar, the one who's irresistible, the one who's supreme, the one who's above, the one who's mighty, who's above everyone else. He can't die. But did Jesus die? Did Jesus die? So Jesus can't be Qahar. Tell me, which one of these 3, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which one is the supreme one? And they'll tell you it's the Father. So then why do you worship someone else besides Him? Why do you worship another God besides Him? How can you worship another Lord besides Him if you've affirmed and you've confirmed and you've stated only one is Al-Qahar? Why have you not worshipped the one who is Al-Qahar? Is there anyone else who deserves to be worshipped besides Him? Is there anyone else that He deserves worship? Ibadah is for the one who's on top. Ibadah is for the one who's on top. Because if Ibadah, what does Ibadah mean? Ibadah means I'm going to put myself low. Does Ibadah not mean I'm going to put myself low? Ibadah means I'm going to take my head, which is the most noble part of my body, and I'm going to put it low. Is that no humiliation? Is that no humility? I'm going to belittle myself. If I'm going to belittle myself, I'm not going to belittle myself for someone who's low just like me. I'm not going to belittle myself for Jesus when Jesus Himself belittled Himself for Allah. What did it say in the Bible? That He fell down on His head in the Garden of Gethsemane. He fell on His face. He done sajda to Allah. So Jesus, He belittles Himself to Allah just like I belittle myself to Allah. So I'm not going to worship a man who worships Allah just like me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to subjugate myself to a man who is himself subjugated. When I make dua, what do? I raise my hands and what do? Just begging. Like a beggar on the street, he puts his hand up. What do? They come to you. They're crackheads and they say, what? Sir, please, can I have £5? I lost my way home. I really want... You know that sometimes the crackheads, they speak good English. There's one in Kingston, wallahi, Kingston. He's still there till now. He threw me off. This guy came to me so calm, collected, proper, like, you know what I'm saying, Caucasian brother, and it's Kingston as well. So I thought to myself, he asked me £5. I was like, he didn't ask me for £1, £2. Like, I thought, he's asking for a lot. So this is like, maybe it's real. So, I need to top up my oyster and get back. And I thought, maybe, And then literally 3 days later, the same crackhead came to me, told me the same story. This then comes to me like 5 times. Every time I say to him, I say, bro, you're that crack that you don't even remember. You keep coming to me. There's not many guys with a beard like me here. You keep coming. So be careful, don't give your money to the crackers. The point is that they have their hands stretched out like this. Hey sir, Oliver Twist. Hey sir, can I have some more? So what do? When you raise your hands to Allah and you beg, you're begging, you're a beggar. Allah, please, this is subjugation, humiliation. I'm only going to do this for the one who qahara alayhi, who has made me underneath him. He's made me low. I'm not going to do it for one who himself is low. Okay, is Jesus higher than me? Yes, but is he still got someone who's higher than him? That's the chain. Take it. Who's the one who's the highest? Who's the highest? Who's the highest? Who's the highest? That's the one I'm going to worship. It's the same with the atheists. The atheists, what do they worship? They worship the universe. They worship the universe. Allah said, لا تسجدوا للشمس ولا للقمر واسجدوا لله الذي خلقهن. Allah said, don't make sajda to the sun and the moon. Make sajda to Allah, the one who created them. Wallahi, this ayah, if you look in it, is a description of the atheists. They look at we look at the stars and the moon and we say Subhanallah. They look at the stars and the moon and say Subhanallah alim. They say glory be to the universe. Look how amazing the universe is. All day he's talking. He sees professors talking about the universe and it's like they want to cry how amazed they are about the universe because they worship it. You ask them, my friend, is the universe everything? Is the universe the greatest thing in creation? Did the universe come into existence? They'll say yes. So then I would say, is it not that the thing that brought the universe into existence greater than the universe? The thing that brought the universe into existence, is that thing not greater than the universe? They would say, of course. It follows. It makes sense. I say, so how is it you're more amazed by the thing that's low than the one who is the great one who brought the universe into existence in the first place? So this is powerful. Now, what about the name Al-Wahid? What about the name Al-Wahid? Al-Qahar, we understand. Al-Wahid, because if you truly have someone who is Al-Qahar, he's the supreme above everyone else, then there can only be one. You can't have two supremes over everyone else. You can only have one, right? So Al-Wahid, so again, you don't need to stress yourself with all these other gods. And then if he's got these two, he's one and he's above everyone, then he is Allah, meaning he deserves to be worshipped. Allah means Dhul Uluhiyya, the one who possesses the one who is deserving to be worshipped. You worship him. No one else deserves to be worshipped. And that is how Yusuf alayhi salam, he started off his da'wah. He didn't finish like this. Then look what he did. Again, a powerful point. First he's showing them, all your gods are not like Allah, so why are you worshipping them? And then secondly, he tells them, what is it that you're worshipping in the first place? What are you even worshipping? He said, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا أَسْمَاءً سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ. He said, these things that you're worshipping, let's even talk about what is it. Now number one, we've established they're not Qahar, and they're not Wahid, and it's not Allah. You're not worshipping Allah, you're not worshipping Al-Wahid, you're not worshipping Al-Qahar. What is it that you're worshipping? He said, these are just things. He said, these are just things that you're worshipping. You just gave them names. Antum wa aba'ukum. You and your dad and your dad's dad and your dad just gave them names. Literally, you walk into a Sikh temple and what is it? It's just literally, it's like, not in a disrespectful way, but it's like the guy made a Pokemon. He designed a Pokemon. He gave it a name. Like what does Pikachu mean? Like, what the hell does Pikachu mean? What's Charizard? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean? And these names don't have, it's just names. Like a guy made a design. He made a little fat pink thing and he called it Jigglypuff. Is it just things that you made and just gave it a name? So then that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say you got a rock. Just built a rock, carved it out and you gave it a name. We're going to call this one Ganesh. We're going to call this one Hanuman. We're going to call this one Rama, Sita. And you worship it. Where is it coming from? It's from your own self. You just gave these things names. There's a story Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Badr mentioned that there were some people of shirk who worshipped a stone. They had an idol made out of stone, worshipped some stones, and they're walking and with the stone and they're worshipping it. And then what happens to one of them? True story, yeah? One of them says, Ya Qawm, go and, people, he said, go and search, go find your Lord, go find your God. Why? فَإِنَّا فَقَدْنَا, because we lost him. The rock fell. So then they all go looking, where's the rock? And one says, Ya Qawm, إِنِّي وَجَدْتُ رَبُّكُمْ أَوْ شِبْهُهُ. He said, oh people, I have found your God, or one that looks like him. See, who told you to worship that thing in the first place? You just found a rock, you gave it a name, and you said, now we're going to worship it. And that's what these people, that's what it is that these people, they worship. And then look what he did. He told them, wallahi, this point that Yusuf alayhi salam gave, wallahi, this point is so powerful, my brothers. If you write it down, wallahi, you can refute any religion out there that worships a God besides Allah. Any religion can be defeated. Look what he said. He said, "Ma anzalallah biha min sultan." He said, whatever it is that you're worshipping, Allah didn't send you down a proof to do this. What is a powerful point here? He's trying to tell you that all religion is of two types. Religion that comes down from Allah and a religion that comes from the earth. Which one is going to be the correct one? Ad-Din, Anzal. A religion that came down. We all believe, everyone, the Hindus, the Christians, the Jews, the Sikhs, everyone believes, where is Allah? Allah is where? He's above, right? He's above and outside of where? He's above and outside of His creation. He's above and outside of His creation, right? He's not in the universe. He's not in the, he's up, he's above. Am I wrong? They all agree. So then if Allah is going to send, if there's a deen to worship Allah, which one makes more sense? The one that came from Allah? Or the one that the humans brought about themselves? Which one? Which one? Which one? The one that came from Allah. So anytime you ever speak to any Christian, any Jew, any Sikh, any Hindu, you ask him one question. You said, where did your religion come from? We say, the Quran came from Allah. They don't believe that Matthew, Mark, Luke and John came from God. They say it came from men. They say these were men writing it. They tell you, yes, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, inspired by God. But what do you mean inspired by God? Okay, you know, Jack the Ripper said he was raping prostitutes and killing them, and he said I was inspired by God. We have no way to substantiate that. But they affirm it came from the Quran. The Guru Granth Sahib, which is the book of the Sikhs, where did that come from? It came from the Gurus, right? It came from what their teachings and what. This is not stuff that came down from Allah. They all affirm it came from where? It came from. It is a deen nabat min al-ard, a deen that came out from the earth. So straight away this deen is false, because it's been you're worshipping Allah through a deen that Allah didn't send down. So that's the discussion. Proof to me this came from Allah, and that's how you defeat any Christian. Okay, the Christian says the Bible came from Allah. Let's talk about it. What's your chain? What's your chain of narration? We have a chain of narration from the Quran going all the way back from now. Ask the Prophet Jibreel, Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't have that. Bring it to me. Talk to the Shia. Same thing. Yeah, Shia. Ayyuh Shia. Where is this from? They don't have not one single hadith connected to the Prophet ﷺ. Where are they bringing this out from? Where are you getting this from? My Shaykh. But I don't care about your Shaykh, bro. Your Shaykh is not Allah. So ask them, where did your deen come from? Where is it coming from? Is it a deen that came down from Allah, or is it a deen that sprouted from the earth? Grab them on that point. Okay, if they claim their deen came from Allah, debate them on that. Prove to me it came from Allah. I can prove the Quran came from Allah. Why? Because the Quran is outside, is a miracle. The Quran is speech, right? The same way Allah created the sun. Can I create the sun? Can you create the sun? Okay, good. Allah spoke the Quran. The same way the sun is something that Allah brought about, the Quran is a speech that Allah spoke. So the same way the creation of Allah is greater than the human creation, the speech of Allah is greater than the human speech. So I'm going to prove to you that the Quran is a speech that no human being could have ever spoke. The Quran has things in it that no other human being could have spoke. And there's actually historical miracles in the Quran. In fact, in the story of Yusuf, which we'll talk about towards the end, that proves that the Quran couldn't have been from anyone except for Allah. Because no one knew things that Allah mentioned in the story of Yusuf, historical facts that people didn't know for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Time the Prophet said this stuff was buried dead in the ground. And only in the last century we discovered, hey, this is a historical fact. The Bible got it wrong. The Torah got it wrong. But the Quran got it right. Because it could have only been from Allah Azza wa Jal. So you proved to him the Quran is from Allah. And then the conversation ends. And then look what he said. After he tells you that the Quran, after he tells you you're worshipping something that didn't come from Allah, what does he tell you? He tells you, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. He said to send down laws, and to send down legislation, and to send down commands is something that's only for Allah. No one has the right to do this. You made this religion up yourself. And then after he tells you, he said that it's only for Allah. What did Allah tell us to do? أَمَرَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهِ. Allah commanded us that we're not allowed to worship anyone besides Him. That's it. Allah ibadah is for you alone. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُ. That is the correct religion, and the majority of people, they do not know. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Yo,
what's going on, bro?
yeah, I got the thing.
What? How much is in there?
20 mil.
You being serious?
Yeah, hold that. It's yours now.
You guys are probably wondering how this dusty looking camera is worth 20 mil. Let me break it down for you. About 6 years ago, some brothers and sisters gave us about £600 in order for us to purchase this camera to make da'wah videos. 6 years later, alhamdulillah, we made well over 1,000 videos and we reached over 20 million plus views on YouTube alone without taking into account all the other social media platforms that we're on. So those people at the time when they gave that money, I don't think they had any idea that that £600 that they gave was gonna go towards a camera that would reach 20 million people who watch videos and they changed their lives after having watched them, who watched these videos and started praying, who watched these videos and accepted Islam. Can you imagine if they were sincere, the kind of reward that they're gonna get on the day of judgment, inshallah ta'ala? But now here's the issue. This camera is 6 years old. I mean, there's cracks in it, it's breaking, it's well past its sell-by date. We're trying to take things up to the next level. In order to do that, we need a new camera. In fact, we need more than one. We need more equipment. We need to actually hire a bigger media team. But all of this stuff, it comes with expenses, it comes with costs. And over the next 6 years, inshallah ta'ala, we're looking to reach well over 20 million people. Now look, I'm gonna be direct with you. I'm about to ask you for some money to put towards the da'wah for the sake of Allah. But before I do that, I wanna tell you some figures, some statistics to show you the kind of reward that you might be looking at, inshallah, if you come with sincerity and the donation. Just take a look at the kind of numbers we have over the last 90 days. Over the last 90 days, we received over 1.4 million views on our YouTube channel alone. That's 466,000 views every 30 days. That's 15,555 views per day. That's right. You could be in your sleep, sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours a day, however much you sleep, and just earn a reward, inshallah ta'ala. Why? Because you gave a bit of money that went towards a very big project. Now, with that 15,000 odd views a day, if you average that out across 6 years, which is the lifespan of this camera, do you know how much reward that is, inshallah? That's 34,065,450 views. I don't know about you, but that kind of reward, I need that in my life. This is not the kind of opportunity that we should be passing up, especially if you've got sins. The Prophet ﷺ said that giving charity wipes away sins the way that water, it extinguishes fire. So look, say no more, inshallah ta'ala. I don't feel like I should have to convince you towards giving to a project like this anymore. If you want that kind of reward, you want the da'wah to spread, you want la ilaha illallah to spread across the internet, inshallah ta'ala, then you want to give at the link below to this project. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. Remember, 20 mil, yeah, and that's on YouTube alone.